All right, Southeast Division preview here on RealGM Radio. I'm excited, guys. This is really to preview this division, huh? Brad, you cover the Hawks over at Locked On Hawks. Nobody does a better job covering that team than you do. And Keith, frequent guest here on RealGM Radio, also the host of the Front Office Show, writer at Spotrac, and most importantly for all our purposes, a resident of Orlando. So this is the dream team. Keith, this has also been a play-in tournament division basically for the last few years. Could be a little bit different this time around.
Yeah, it feels like it. It feels like we've got a couple teams that are ready to take meaningful steps forward. You have the Heat, who are always the Heat, right? They're always going to be relevant. And then you've got a couple teams that are still trying to find their way, if we'll put it nicely here to start out with. But yeah, it's a fun division now. I think better division than it's been in a little while, which is good. It used to feel like this was the Miami Heat Invitational for a little bit in this division.
Brad, it feels a little bit like training wheels coming off for a few of these teams, including the team that you cover.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a division last year that was won by a team that finished 41-41. Like, you don't regularly see that. That is not, as much as the division format is like not everybody's the way that is plugged in at this point in time. It became like a story because it was so uninspiring overall. Like, it came down to the end. But yeah, 41-41. But yeah, the top two teams from last year are the projected, I think for most people, top two teams this year, and both are projected to take a pretty big step forward. So training wheels, like, you got youngish teams getting a little bit more developed and also proactively adding. So that combination, I feel like, maybe that's a good analogy, that training wheels are coming off for at least a couple of these teams.
Yeah, I got to be honest. You mentioned sort of the silliness of divisions and how nobody really pays attention to them anymore. I kind of feel ridiculous doing division previews. Like, who else is doing division previews? But, my predecessor here, Danny LaRue, did them. People seem to like them. So I was like, all right, people like it, I'll keep doing it. So I guess the only reason for divisions in the NBA is so that RealGM Radio has something to talk about in September. But let's just jump right in. We got a bunch of things we're going to talk about. Who got better, who got worse. We're going to talk about most impactful newcomers. We'll talk about some rookies. And then at the end of the show, we'll make some predictions about how we think this division will end up in terms of the standings and which of these teams end up making the playoffs like we were talking about. But let's just start with who got better. And there's two teams I think we have to start with. Keith, I'll let you kind of choose our direction here. The teams that most people are talking about, at least this offseason, based on their additions, are Atlanta and Orlando. It feels like most people are picking one of these teams to win the division. Pretty inarguable that they both got better, unless you disagree with me.
No, I'm with you on that. I think they both got better. It's in a way, I think you can look at all five teams and say they all kind of got
I agree.
better.
Yep.
I think they all like I think even Washington and Charlotte, who are rebuilding, took good players in the draft. I think their off seasons made sense for where they're at. I think they're moving forward. But I think Orlando and Atlanta, yeah, those two teams both clearly got better. It's probably a matter of choice of who you think got more better. I don't know, betterer. I don't know. Me a writer. It's I just like, for me, as long as Desmond Bane doesn't go through whatever happens when you take that monorail over after you land in Orlando and causes you to lose your shooting ability, I think that's a home run addition for the Magic. I think he's going to give them everything they need without a huge downgrade defensively. I think Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has slipped enough that Bane can, more than reliably fill in on that end, and additional shooting, scoring, playmaking, that's just huge to help them. And yeah, Atlanta, I mean, huge additions literally with Porzingis. And then I think getting Nickeil Alexander-Walker was a great pickup for them. I think they are arguably maybe the deepest team in the division now.
Brad, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. The Hawks clearly have, depth is a construct in some ways. Like, they have the best top seven. If you cut it off at seven, like, they definitely have the best top seven, like, as far as depth. Beyond that, it's a little bit more uncertain. And certainly Orlando has, the three that everybody would point to as the top, with Banchero, Franz, and now Bane. And I have to bring this up before I forget to bring it up. My favorite stat about the Southeast has to do with Orlando and the fact that Orlando has not had a top 20 offense since 2011, 2012.
That's what
It
happens when
seems
you lose a Hall
absolutely
of Famer.
impossible.
Yeah.
But that seems absolutely impossible. Not top 10, not top
Right.
15. They have not had a top 20 offense in a league with 30 teams since 2012. Like, that's impossible. And
Yeah.
that has to change. Like, I mean, it's a non sequitur for now, but I can't forget to say that out loud.
It's a great stat. And in layman's terms, what that means is since 2012, this offense has stunk.
Yeah.
It's just been bad. It's not even been okay. It's been bad, and it's been a problem for them. And it's why they haven't had any success basically during that time, as good as their defenses have been over that year. Keith mentioned Bane. I think it's worth maybe doing a little bit more of a deeper dive on him. We know the 3-point shooting, right? That's obviously the big thing there. We know what they traded for him. I honestly think it was a great trade for both teams. I kind of like it for Memphis a little bit more based on what they got. But you know what? Orlando, they're going for it. You get points, at least brownie points, for going for it when you think you've got a window here. And with Bane, like I said, the 3-point shooting is the most important, maybe right away, immediately impactful piece with him. What I love about Bane specifically, it's not just the shooting percentage. He took more threes off the dribble than he did off the catch for Memphis. And part of that was, okay, well, John Morant was out a bunch and there was no Tyus Jones there anymore and all these guys. And yeah, they had Scottie Pippen Jr. a little bit to start, but he basically had to. I don't care about the reason. I just care that it happened and that he's good at it and that he can bring that to Orlando, because guess what? He's probably going to have to do that with the Magic too. And that, when we talk about spacing, that's real spacing. Like, you've got PJ Tuckers who shoot 40% from the corners and they're a 0 in terms of spacing because nobody cares. They'll just say, hey, shoot away, man. I don't care. But when you've got somebody like Bane who you have to literally guard when he crosses half court, that's real spacing. And I'm really interested to see what that does for that offense.
I think, too, when teams, if they do hug up on him, he can also put the ball on the floor and make plays for himself and others, because he's played so much throughout his first few years in the league without John Morant due to injuries or suspensions. He has had to really take on an increased playmaking role in that Grizzlies offense. And I think that's big.
5 assists a year for the last 2 years.
Yeah, which is really good for a guy no one thinks of as a true playmaker. And why that's really important for Orlando is their regular starting group, when healthy, isn't going to feature a traditional point guard. It's going to be Wendell Carter Jr., Banchero, Franz Wagner, Bane, and then Jalen Suggs is going to be the de facto point guard. And I think what you're going to see is that's a whole bunch of guys who can make plays, even if none of them are a primary playmaker, at least 4 others. And then if it gets a little sideways, I think an underrated addition for them was getting Tyus Jones. I think that was a really good pickup just to give them that kind of more, all right, I need someone who can really settle everyone down, get people, in a good place. And comes with the added benefit of Jones played with Bane already. So those two have a little bit of chemistry from their time together in Memphis. So yeah, but Bane, I think that's a huge addition there. I think the Magic want to stay, obviously, because of the offensive challenges, they've morphed into this elite defensive team, and that's important that they continue to do that. And I think Bane fits in really well there. He's not quite the chase guys through screens player that Caldwell Pope was, but I think that's what Suggs will do for them some in that role. And then they'll kind of piece it together from there. But all around, I think he's a huge get for them.
It's absolutely right. I would echo all that, and also just throw in just exactly what you said, but the Magic were dead last in the league in 3-point percentage and dead last in the league in assists per game. And Bane is a bigger ad in 3-point percentage, but the entire theory of the case for Orlando is that they're not going to play with a point guard. They don't want to play with a point guard, but you need to have enough playmaking. And he does a little bit more of that. And also getting Suggs back, which you just mentioned, but it's also not a small thing. Like, Suggs was hurt a lot last year. People kind of vary on his offensive game in particular, and I'm among that group. But he, at least as another guy who can handle the ball, who can run a pick and roll, who can operate the offense a little bit. And now you have 4 of those guys plus Tyus Jones who can do it in a caretaker kind of way. You at least have kind of a theory of the case now to raise the floor of your offense, in addition to having 2 top flight guys in Paolo and Franz. Like, you need something to kind of lead your playmaking ability to raise it to that theory of the level that where they want it to be. And now you have, for me, with those 3 guys, Suggs, Bane, and now Jones, much more of a chance to do that than you had before.
Yeah, there's a theory when it comes to like task management in business and like in terms of how to prioritize your tasks. And one of the thing, and what it is like, hey, what's the one thing that I can do that makes the rest of the things on my to-do list either easier or checks it off for me, like right off the bat. And that's what it kind of reminds me what Orlando did this offseason. It's like, what's one thing we could do that just kind of addresses all things? Brad, it's a great stat. Like we're last in 3-point shooting, last in assists. Well, Bane just helps both of those things. Add Tyus Jones to the mix. Now we're really helping both of those things. Tyus Jones, not a high volume 3-point shooter, but obviously an efficient one. And all these is like, okay, yeah, we're doing things that are just sort of checking these boxes. And I think we're going to see potentially a domino effect or a ripple effect across these lineups. That's at least the idea here.
Yeah, let me add one thing on the shooting too, because it's one thing to say that they were last. They were historically bad.
Yeah, they were last by a lot.
Yeah, there have been some like studies, metrics, whatever that shows they were maybe one of the worst shooting teams ever in NBA history, simply because of the volume of 3-pointers and the importance that shot has taken on in the league today. So that's just to give everybody a sense, like really, really, really bad with that. Now, Bane's not going to fix that all by himself, but he'll go a long way. But I think Franz can improve there. We're still waiting for that to come after he was a pretty good shooter and then wasn't. Paolo, I think, has room there, especially if the game can just be made a little easier for him to get better looks, because I don't know that he's a great off the dribble shooter, especially not on threes. So I think if you could translate a couple of those off the dribble contested jumpers to spot up open looks for him, that's really good. But yeah, and then you're going to need some of it to come just internal development from a couple other guys as well. But they're on their way to being better for sure.
There's also one other thing before we move on to the Hawks here that I find interesting, and I have no idea if this matters, guys. It might just be a thing. What doesn't the Orlando Magic broadcaster does? Is this something? Isn't that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. This is this. This is that.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this something? Desmond Bane, most of his shots come from the right side of the floor. He likes that right side above the break. Paolo and Franz like to do a lot of their work on the left side of the floor. That's a spacing thing. Now, that just might be circumstantial. Hey, he played in Memphis, he played Orlando. That's just where the shots came from. But we do know that Paolo and Franz like to go left. And if Bane is spacing the floor from the right, is that something? I guess we'll find out.